Creating from the heart, the artistry of living. I'm here with Bob Thorsen, who is an amazing guy. And you just said something to me. Life, what did you say?
Life is what happens to you while you're busy planning something else.
There you go. Is that the epitome of your life?
I think that sums it up. Yeah, absolutely. Because a whole lot of, I just have had an enormous amount of good luck.
Well, that's a blessing.
Well, it sure is. I mean,
Give me an example.
okay, good luck. Let's see.
What happened to you?
What?
What's the favorite thing that happened to you?
I got into the theater.
Yay. That's amazing. How did you do that?
Well, once again, I had a friend in college, big burly guy with a beard. It was pre-hippie days, but he marched to his own drummer. But he was doing tech work in the theater department.
Okay.
And apparently somebody had dropped out of a play while it was already close to opening. So he came to me and he said, "Bob, have you ever been in a play?" And I said, "No." I was an English major, and so I read a lot, but I'd never been in a play. And he said, "Well, we need somebody quick. You got to come over." And I said, "I don't want to do that." And he said, "Bob, it's a great way to meet girls."
Yes.
I went, "Oh, well, let's give that a try." So I went over, and once again, I got cast in this play. I'm sure I was perfectly awful.
But you met a girl?
No.
Oh.
No, that was a delusion.
What made you think you did perfectly awful?
Well, because I didn't know what I was doing. That can't be altogether true, because the director of the play was the head of the theater department, and he said to me, "I want you to do another one."
That doesn't sound like
And he said-
perfectly awful.
I know the first performance in front of an audience, I'd never performed before an audience before. And at intermission, he comes backstage and he was laughing. And he said, "Bob, for God's sake, slow down. This is like you want to hurry up and get it over and have it be over with." And that probably was the case. But there was something in it. When I say I was perfectly awful, I don't know that. I don't know. I can't judge. Who knows?
Well, somebody let you do it again, so it couldn't be true.
Well, yeah, and the same director. So I think he at least saw some raw material that maybe that he could work with.
What was the next thing you did?
Well, I'll tell you the next play I did, because the title is sort of typical Tennessee Williams, but the play was a one-act called "I Rise in Flames, Cried the Phoenix." I mean, doesn't that sound like Tennessee Williams?
It does.
I mean, my single word for Tennessee Williams is florid.
Florid.
Florid. And, he's always like a burning ember. Everything is pretty hot-blooded with Tennessee Williams.
Are you hot-blooded?
You're asking a Norwegian if he's hot-blooded? Wow, Norwegians tend to be pretty cool, calm, and reserved. And reserved? No, never. I was always a loudmouth, I think.
There you go. You must have had it in your blood.
Yeah.
So what happened next?
Well, first let me tell you a description of a Norwegian.
Oh, okay.
A friend of mine, no, it was Susan Sontag, the very great late Susan Sontag, who wrote once that a conversation with a Scandinavian is a leap across an abyss.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And that was Sontag. She was smart lady. Anyway, your next question, I forgot what it was.
It is. So you did well in the second play.
Actually, I was hooked. I was actually hooked in the first one.
You were hooked.
I definitely was hooked.
What hooked you?
Well, I had a love of literature
Okay.
from early age, really. And this was putting the literature to work.
Oh, that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, it was. I really did. I did have a performing instinct. I think I had the sort of perhaps even narcissistic need to be seen. But I was conflicted in a certain way as my theater work continued, because I was not interested. I never had even remotely a thought of film or television.
Okay.
I was a book guy. And theater is kind of a conflicted art form because there's a mixture of egotism and narcissism.
Okay.
But then you do a Shakespeare play. Oh, it's not narcissism, it's the most brilliant literature ever written. So I did have to do in the whole process of this, dumb plays. I call them stupid plays, like Under the Yum Yum Tree, or.
You had to do those in order to be able to do Shakespeare, meaning get your chance to do Shakespeare?
Well, I wanted to keep working.
Yeah,
And so when you get a chance, you take it.
regardless of what it is.
I didn't seek that kind of theater. I sought the more literary sort of work.
Did you get a chance to do it?
I did. Let's see, I Rise in Flames, Cried the Phoenix. That was a fabulous Tennessee Williams play. That started it all. The kicker was, I got cast, and this was into my college-related community theater,
Okay.
Fargo, North Dakota.
Fargo, North Dakota. Yay.
Go Bison. Anyway, what was I saying? The play that I got to do was called Look Back in Anger.
Oh.
Big, famous play
Yes.
in the 60s. Huge part.
What was your part?
Well, the character's name was Jimmy Porter. He's the angry guy.
He's the angry guy.
Yeah, and huge role. It's a longer role than Hamlet in terms of word count. Actors count words a lot.
They do.
So that was, there's an experience that I'm kind of recalling right now that happens. When it doesn't happen, you're just on stage reciting words.
Okay.
It's shallow. Some people are very good at just reciting words, but it's not the real theater. But
You're not in it.
You're right. But doing Look Back in Anger was this passionate experience that I had. And I wasn't, for one thing, for almost 2 hours, I was totally free of any self-consciousness, which is sort of an ironic thing to say for an actor working on the stage. But it happened that way, that I got so into it.
That you weren't Bob Thorsen anymore.
No, and I didn't have to think of words or what I was going to say next. It was back in those days, I could memorize very quickly. And of course, the more theater you do, the better you get at memorizing. It's just, it's like muscle practice. It's like working out. So that I don't have to I didn't have to think, what am I saying next? You just respond. And that's what makes it happen. When that happens, theater can become art.
Oh, yes.
And then something else, in terms of luck, something else happened.
Oh, no.
That was all in my hometown of Fargo, North Dakota.
Okay.
There's a big university town. There are 3 universities
Oh, my.
there. But the something else that happened is that 250 miles away was Minneapolis, and the Tyrone Guthrie Theater opened. Ha ha.
Aha.
That. Talk about luck. I mean,
Or being in the right place at the right time.
and so I went to see, I'll never forget, it was the first or second season of the Guthrie. My favorite actor in the world, still to this day, he's no longer with us, is the late great Ed Flanders. Oh, accents, he could do all of it. Totally, I couldn't believe having a theater experience. They were doing As You Like It,
Uh-huh.
and of course Ed plays Touchstone. And so he makes this entrance with Audrey, the sort of shepherd girl, played by a woman I became friends with and worked with a lot years later. Evie McElroy was her name. Big, large, very much present woman. She's playing this peasant girl. And they made an entrance, and right when Ed's line as Touchstone, as written, was "Bear thy body more seemingly, Audrey." But right at that time when they're making the entrance, Evie had a very kind of loose garment, I can't describe it, and she was not wearing a bra, and a breast had come out, had fallen out. And right when he had that line, he looked at her and he put her breast back in and said, "Bear thy body more seemingly, Audrey." I went, perfect. You know, theater, I think, talk about a subject, accidents in art.
Yes.
It's a huge subject, but when it happens in theater just that way, I mean, my goodness, it's so wonderful. I know painters a lot refer to, they're painting away and
Right.
a drip happens. You go, I'm saving that. You know. So maybe
But
that's
this is like that.
yeah, very much like that. And it so happened in the moment. Maybe that's what I was in a theater, an accident that happened.
If so, it was a great accident.
Well, and I know at North Dakota State University, it was a great liberal arts department there. And I was always an English major. I was never a theater major. And the heads of the theater department and the English department were always a little bit at odds with each other. And I always remember when Dr. Hovey, head of the English department, I adored that man. I camped out in his office a lot. You know, he was this deeply intellectual guy, but he was North Dakota. He was always in shirt sleeves with his sleeves rolled up. I mean, he was just a great, great man. And Dr. Walsh in the theater department was a bit arrogant and pompous, maybe is the right word. I don't want to be unkind, but I remember there was a big party after a show once, and Dr. Hovey came up to Dr. Walsh, Hovey from the English department, and he says, "Fred, no, this is going great. I mean, you continue. You tell them when to speak and where to stand, and then you send them over to me, and I'll tell them what it means." I've always clung to that one. So I never liked doing I did actually, when I started to turn pro, what happened in Fargo, we had a community theater, partly, certainly infused with some of the college stuff, because there was North Dakota State, there was Concordia College, and there was Morehead State College, all in the same area. So we had a lot of things to draw on. But we wound up, this is one of the great parts of my history, only it's not me, it's a whole bunch of people who did a lot more than I did.
Well, they all did it together, I bet.
Absolutely. But what we did at our community theater then, there was a vacant church that we were renting, and we were using the altar for the performance space. But there was a construction company, a guy who owned a small construction company, whose wife was part of our theater. She made costumes and did a lot of the backstage stuff. And so he said, well, we were complaining about this cramped space we were in. And he said, well, you guys got to raise some money, but if you do, I'll build you a theater. So we got so excited, and I went to Minneapolis. There was a student, a graduate student. You know, you had to track down who this was. He was an architecture student, grad student. And Guthrie had opened with a thrust stage. You know, it was a 3/4 round stage instead of the standard proscenium.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I loved, because the Guthrie
Yes.
just knocked me out. So he said, sure, I'll do a thrust stage for you. And he designed the theater for us. And he designed the seating to open. There were 300 seats, but it was built so that you could easily add up above another 300, which eventually happened very quickly. So we had the design, and we went back. I still remember, God bless the man, his name was Doc Kander. He owned the construction company. And he came through. He said, okay, some of the dangerous work, the high-level work and stuff, I can't do free. That has to be paid for insurance reasons and so forth. So he said, but you still need some more money. And we went around Fargo, Morehead, knocking on doors. And there were other methods of contacting people, raising money. And I don't even remember this. So long ago, I don't remember the amount. But we had a surplus.
Whoa.
And we built this 300-seat thrust theater with room at the top for another 300 seats. And our board of directors were a mixture. This is in the entire history of theater. Play it safe commercial types and the artistically adventurous who don't want to do that. But because the board of directors had done so much for us, they wanted to make sure our first play was a safe commercial play. So the first play we're in, that I was in there, was the first play at that theater, was Barefoot in the Park. Big Neil Simon. Yet after that, though, I believe the next play we did was Man for All Seasons. And we had a director from the Guthrie, a woman, she was brilliant. Boy, and of course, in Man for All Seasons, I wanted to play the lead.
Did you get to?
No. This director, she was such a tough woman, so smart, great sense of humor. But I kept fighting with her that no, I should play Thomas More. You know, Saint Thomas More now, who in the play has to be in his mid to late 40s. And what am I, 20? You know, but I fought so hard for her. She laughed and she said, Bob, you know what you're doing? You're casting yourself. And I said, what do you mean? You are Richard Rich, a character in the play Man for All Seasons, who just wants to be, first he wants to be right next to Thomas More. And he keeps trying to be, and Thomas, he's just all ambition. And every entrance Richard Rohr has in the play, he's better dressed. He keeps climbing the ladder, but he's this kind of a hollow, shallow guy. But my working so hard to get the lead
Right.
perfectly cast me
Got your
as
j-
this guy who's trying to be a social climber. And so it was the director. Boy, at first I was so angry with her because I'd been playing pretty much all the leads, and
But she was smart.
well, she was absolutely what a theater person. And I mean, she's the more I was like this, the more perfect I was. That's what Richard Rich was. He was trying to rise in power and significance. She took this egotistical upstart and put him in the right spot.
So what are you doing with this interest in theater today?
Well, it's funny you should ask that. Writing a play.
You are.
I am. And it's, I don't know how this came about, but I'm now committed through the Dunes Theater
Good.
here in the Michigan City area. There's a director over there who wanted to do a couple. I've attended one Zoom meeting of a bunch of people and talking about playwriting. They want to do some new plays. And I had always, for some time now, for a few months now, I've had this flea in my ear about an idea for a play.
I love that. Flea in your ear.
That's the name of a play.
Oh,
I'll never play it. It's a Georges Feydeau French farce called A Flea in Her Ear. I'd forgotten I did that one. I've done so many plays. I go, oh yeah, that's right, I did that play. And once in a while, because something gets in there and it won't go away, and all of a sudden you go, I better pay attention to it then. You know?
yes. You know it comes knocking.
Yeah, yes.
And then it comes knocking again.
Yeah, it won't go
And
away.
if you don't say yes, it'll leave.
Oh, it'll leave.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it might do me in, but
It'll go find somebody else if you don't do it.
Oh, what a good! Thank you.
It's like, have you ever read, Eat, Pray, Love was her first book.
Oh gosh, yes.
And her second book was Big Magic.
That one I don't know.
Well, Big Magic is her story about how she wrote her second book. Or she wanted to write her second book. She had it all outlined, and Elizabeth Gilbert, she had it all outlined and ready to go. And the person that she met in Eat, Pray, Love, who became her husband, suddenly was deported.
Whoa.
And she had a choice. She could stay here and work on her book, or she could go where he was and work to get him back in the country, which is what she did. In the process of doing that, when she and he finally got back in this country and finally got settled, somebody else had written her book. And she actually became really, really good friends with that person.
Oh my.
But it was slightly different, just in a different time frame, but it was the same book. And what she said when she came to Sinai Forum here and talked about that, and also talked about it in her book, is that she believes there are these embodied ideas that are not embodied in the sense that they're on the planet, but they're out there and they're floating around and they're looking for manifestation, and they will come and tap you on the shoulder.
Wow.
And if you say, oh, I'm too busy, I'll get to that later, they'll come back again and they'll tap once more. But if you still persist in saying, I'm too busy, they'll go find somebody else, which is what she believes happened.
I'm a little upset right now,
Uh-oh.
thinking of everything that I let go by not.
No, don't. It's all right. Sometimes it's important to let go.
Well, yeah, it is. And, there seems to be Shakespeare, ripeness is all. what a perfect line that is when it's time.
Yes, when it's time.
So maybe all of that letting go was all steps along the way.
Okay, so I want to hear about this fly in your ear.
What, is the play?
Yeah. Or if you're willing to share, maybe you want to wait until you create it.
Well, as you said, I don't need to fear that you're going to take it from me and write it yourself, because you just told me a story that could happen.
Good.
So then it happens. So what? If it's a good story,
So
that's what matters.
when are we getting to see the fly in your ear?
Oh, now you're talking production? Ooh. Well, it might not be too long, because the Dunes Theater they've encouraged me, and the process would be this. If they like it, first there'll be a table reading.
Right.
If the table reading proves fruitful, if they like it, the next step is to go on to production.
Right.
So
Are we close to getting the written script?
define close. No. Yesterday I worked for almost 5 hours, and I've got down why they're there, and thinking it through. I love to write, but in my whole life have only written prose and not fiction. So I'm a decent writer, but you don't start that way in the theater. So I finally said, wait, I have some work to do that will just be some notes. Like, first of all, if drama is conflict,
Yeah.
I can't start till I have a conflict.
Yeah, you got to have a rub.
What's the conflict? So I was making all kinds of notes, and I kind of have one, and it has to do with, I don't know how this happened growing up in Fargo, North Dakota, but I have always been sensitive and believe there is a ongoing, universal battle between art and commerce.
Say more about that.
Well, oh God, I just came up with not a perfect example, but I know, and I was doing at the Cleveland Playhouse. I finally wound up with a job there with a professional repertory company, and I was there for years, for a long time. And I hope I can tell this story, but we were doing Taming of the Shrew.
Okay.
And I played Grumio, the comic foil to Petruchio, the lead. The set we had built was like a jungle gym. There were these metal vertical columns, and then there were crossbars like that. And they were 7 feet high.
Whoa, 7
And there were
feet?
3 of them, and they rotated on a base. So as Grumio, I saw the set, and I started climbing those. And I did lines hanging upside down by my knees. I was young then. But there's a scene where Petruchio, who's giving Kate, the female lead, this really hard time. And I forget, he wants to give her this dress, but then he says no. He does all this giving and taking, bullying Kate. And Petruchio throws me the skirt, and he said,
Wait a minute, say that again.
Petruchio throws her dress that he's been showing to her. He tosses it to me, Grumio, his servant. And he said, take up thy mistress' dress. So I took the skirt, and it first happened by accident. Remember, the set came out with those poles like that, like the jungle gym. So I started backing up, and I had the skirt in both hands, and the skirt started to raise. Do you follow my drift?
Uh-huh.
So it looked like an erection. And my line was, I'll never forget, my line was, take up my mistress' dress for her master's use, fie, fie, fie. But that was the line. But that happened right when I started backing up. That created this. And the director was howling. But on opening night, Cleveland is a pretty conservative town, and those board of directors at the Cleveland Playhouse are a bunch of stuffed shirts. And there was a complaint. This one guy came to the theater director and said, "You can't do that." So I got called into the, Rex Partington was his name, God bless the man. He was then the artistic director. And he said, "Bob, you're gonna hate this, but we gotta do it. This guy is a huge backer. He gives us a ton
Huge
of money."
backer, you got to do what the money says.
And he says, he doesn't know this, but he's gonna come again tomorrow night. Just for that night. Cut the bit, will you? Don't back up like that. Just say the line. I don't want to. I don't want to do that. But Rex, I just loved Mr. Partington. He was from the Guthrie too. So I agreed to cut the bit. But from then on, I've always hated the quashing of artistic expression.
Mm-hmm.
And the play it safe people. Because, art should be anything but playing it safe. Good Lord. I mean, what is creation? First of all, it's new.
Yes.
So don't make it be something old. Shakespeare did it, everything he wrote. Never been done before.
Well, I can hardly wait to see your play.
Well, the whole reason theaters do what's called rolling repertory. Well, they'll do one play one night, and they'll do another play the other night.
Okay.
The Guthrie Oak Theater in Minneapolis opened that way, doing that. So they were in rehearsal for a long time because they opened with 3 plays
Right.
in rotation while they were adding a 4th. Dr. Guthrie himself, Randall, that's a big, tall guy, 6'5". But he used to give this speech about the reason for doing rolling repertory was to stretch the actor who will play a romantic lead one day, and he'll play a small character actor the next day, and it'll keep everything fresh. And then in private, he would say, "No, the real reason for a rolling rep with different plays, it makes it easier to bury your failures." A play is not doing well, you can just pull it out of the rep. But what's cool about that, because with the attempt at making art, success isn't guaranteed. There are all kinds of mistakes. And in the theater, I know some of the best plays I ever saw at the Guthrie were not popular failures, and they closed early because they could pull it out of the repertory. So some of the stuff I did, in my hometown, which is a vivid theater community in Fargo, North Dakota, or was then. And then I got influenced so much by the Guthrie Theater. God, all those. Dr. Guthrie himself, Edward Payson Call was the name of the director. We got him to come to our theater in Fargo, North Dakota and direct a play for us.
Uh-huh.
And he's the one that told me, you should go try and make it as an actor. And I said, "Well, can you help me?" And he goes, "No." No, you gotta find someplace to go. So I started, that's right, we had another director from the Guthrie. Marge, can't remember Marge's last name right now. She said, okay, I'll get you started. She worked for a long time with and was a part of a family that had an equity summer stock company in Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. She wrote to them and recommended me, so they just sent me an okay. They said, okay, come.
So you did.
So I did, and it was an equity theater. I was not a member of the union, but they made me, no, the first year I was an apprentice, a paid apprentice. Paid was like $20 a week or something like that.
Okay.
The following year, they asked me to come back. It was a summer theater, and I was in a fellowship, an equity fellowship. Equity used to have a category to help you ease into the union status. And the reason for that is that if you went equity right away when you don't have a resume yet, you price yourself out of work.
Right.
So equity was very good creating this sort of a way to ease into the full payment process, which was just, I mean, talk about luck. But that's what happened to me there at that theater. Then at the end of that one theater season, when I did it, you're doing a new play every week. A great discipline. Perhaps not the greatest way to do theater. You might need a little more time than that. But boy, does it create the discipline of the theater as Edward Call used to say all the time, learn your words and don't bump into the furniture. I loved it. I still use that one. But so I worked there in Jennerstown, and then I said, okay, now what? And I was aware, because of the Guthrie Theater, of regional theaters. I had no thought of New York or Hollywood or LA, none. And I started looking at the closest theater to me, professional theater, was the Pittsburgh Playhouse. I was in Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. And so I called them up on the phone, and they just said, it doesn't work this way, and they hung up on me. So, whoops, that didn't work. So then I picked up the phone and called. Remember we talked about luck?
Yes.
The next closest theater was the Cleveland Playhouse.
Okay.
I called the Cleveland Playhouse. It's summertime. There's a gentleman who answered the phone. His name is K.L. Molo. I can't say his name without getting. He was the artistic director of the Cleveland Playhouse. He created the Cleveland Playhouse. He had been a Broadway star. His wife, Miss Paxton, Grande Dame, had been a Broadway star. And I don't know the story of how they got to Cleveland, but they had this theater, and that theater had been running it was the largest and one of the most successful regional theaters in the country, and it had been operating by the time I got there, I think it had been about 30 years.
Really?
Long time. So quite successful. They operated 3 theaters, and I go in, and I didn't even really know how to audition. Talk about this rube from Fargo. So I go on and did what was my version, and Kay says to me, no, it's not this. And we were in his office, book-lined office. And he said, here, and he hands me a whole bunch of books. And he's got an armful. We go down to the stage, and he had me read from, 20 different plays to read different parts. And he would direct me in one way or another. And he was this glorious man, tall, leonine head of hair, always with the ascot. It was always a little sweaty, sweat stained, even though it's an ascot. I loved that man. And so when we were done, he said, okay, go back to your theater. And he said, oh no, I forgot to tell you. When I first called him, it was he who answered the phone. Normally that would be a switchboard operator. but it was summertime. They were on a minimum. Everybody was gone except one, and she was at lunch. It just happened to be him that answered the phone, which is extremely unusual. And later on, his wife, Miss Paxton, God bless her, she said, "You know why you're here?" I said, "No." She said, "Because Kay and I have a daughter, as you know."
What?
Kay and I have a daughter, as you know. But we always wanted a son. He has always wanted a son. Guess what?
You're it.
You're it. You know, talk about, now I was there. I became an equity actor there, and I was there for years. Building tremendous professional experience doing Shakespeare, doing Chekhov. How luck, because Kay always wanted a son.
Hey,
Therein lies the tale.
right place at the right time.
Place, right time. There's another Shakespeare line. Readiness is all.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, well, it's fun.
And I can hardly wait to see your play.
Well, be patient.
Maybe.
But I have a deadline because there's.
What's the deadline?
Well, actually, I have 3.5 more weeks.
Oh, okay.
But I really think it needs to be done in less than that for it to be properly evaluated in time. Because I'm not the only one who's going to submit these. You know, it's not all about me. Surprise.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Oh, well, thank you for being here.
Creating from the heart the artistry of living. Thank you, Bob Thorsen, and we'll see you next time.